Hello friends! Hi my artsy smartsy friends. I miss everyone. So today we're going to do some object drawing and I'm going to use the grid method. So we're going to take a small grid of 1-inch squares and place our objects on them, and then we're going to draw on a paper that has a grid of 2-inch squares. I let the children do the measuring and make the grid themselves on index cards. And that adds some math in there because they're using their measuring skills and they're learning about ratios, equal ratios. So you can look that up on a lesson, like maybe on YouTube or something, and learn about what ratios are, equal ratios, and add that sneaky lesson, sneaky math lesson right into this art project. So the art project follows, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to act as the kids are watching this. That way, if you do let them, they can follow along. So I'm making the grid and I'm using the ruler to mark 1-inch spots along all the edges of the paper. And then we will connect the lines and there'll be a 1-inch grid on this index card. Okay, we're done with the small grid. Now on to the large grid. You're going to do the same thing, but we're going to use 2 inches. So I'm almost done making the lines and connecting all the 2-inch marks. And now I have a large grid. And I will trim the paper like I told you because it wasn't full inches. I also found later that my large paper only had 5 going across the top and the small grid had 6. So I have to adjust that, and I do that off camera. So now you look at your small grid and you make a composition. Adjust it to how you want. Where do you want to line up those candies and or any other object that you're going to use. There, that's how I settled. And you can see I trimmed it here. Okay, my composition of candy is where I want it. And now let me line up the camera so you can see. I count how many boxes and see what's in each box, and that's how I'm going to start the drawing. Like, where is that little Hershey's candy? How many boxes does it take up? Let's look at that Baby Ruth. Where does it line up? How many boxes does it take? I count them, I look, I try to figure out the angle, and you just kind of look at each square on your small grid and draw what you see on the large grid. And this is just your rough sketch, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but draw lightly. And remember, like I said, I made my grid dark so that you can see it, but you're going to have a lightly penciled grid on your drawing paper so that you can erase it easily. So now I'm going to the smaller candy, and it's basically in one box, and I look at where the planes turn. It's halfway through that box, and I know that keeps the proportions correct. Like it's going to be the right proportion towards the other candies because they're all filling the same boxes. Now I work over to this lollipop, but I went too big. Oh, I'm going to have to make adjustments. That's way too big. This will have to be some shadow down there. Let me see. Yes, that's going to be shadow. I'm going to write in shadow so I remember later. Okay, now let's see. Yep, let's make that a little smaller because it doesn't fill up that whole other box. Now the popsicle stick, I'm going to use a ruler to make it straight. It takes up like 3. It's really long. Now we're working on the wrapper. We're just drawing the shapes that we see in each square. You know, just make adjustments as you go, and at the end you'll have a nice proportion drawing of all your candy or objects that you're drawing. So just keep going, adding more detail. I'm adding some shadow here. Whatever you see that's in the square, make adjustments. Use an eraser to remove things that you know aren't correct. But do it lightly in case you want to add some color with some paint or some marker later. You can also use the grid method with like a printout. You print out a picture you want to draw and you draw the grid over the picture, and then you can transfer your drawing of that picture onto your paper. It's a good way just to practice your drawing skills too. Here I am just quickly doing some lettering, and I'm watching the angle that it goes by where it lines up with those little boxes. Now I'm going to take an eraser and gently erase all the grid lines. Like I said, mine are a lot darker. Yours are going to be a light pencil sketch, and they'll come off easily, and the paint will cover them or your marker easily. I mean, you don't even have to add color. You can keep going with pencil and just do a nice pencil drawing. But I'm going to add a little color. Okay, I'm just going to add some watercolor, and I'm going to leave the pencil pretty prominent, and it's going to be a mixed medium artwork with pencil and watercolor. I'm just going to, same thing, I'm looking up where everything lines up in the squares, the shapes of the color, and I'm filling it in. And remember, this doesn't have to be perfect. Don't worry about it, just keep going. Adjust with your mistakes, go with it. And this is a lesson for you to learn how to draw and how to see objects and how to draw what you see. So just keep it going. So I'm going to keep the process going. I'm going to add color the same way I did the pencil by looking how it lines up in each square and where the color starts, where it changes shade in the square or on the outside of the square in proportion to the other items on the grid. It's a great way to learn object drawing, and I hope you enjoy this lesson. And if you're in my group for Artsy Smartsy, maybe you can post a picture if you do it. I'd enjoy seeing it. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to have a lesson every other Wednesday. Thank you for joining me. See you next time.